fine. My name is Jill Dame. I'm an attorney who quit practicing law in order to teach school, to do a lifelong passion of school teaching. And so I've practiced law, taught school, and after that moved into the nonprofit sector primarily, doing consulting for a whole range of nonprofit organizations on strategic planning, board development, fundraising, governance, and have also served as an executive director for a couple of them when they were between executive directors. I'm running because I love our city. I grew up here. I have followed politics in Jacksonville my entire life, and I think we've had some low points in the last few years. I'd like to see us continue to have good people on the council who are serving because they want to make a difference and want to make our city better. I think I have the education, the experience, and the integrity that I'm ready and willing to serve.
Okay, let me start out by asking you what you consider to be the true core functions of local government.
Yeah, it's an interesting list because it's not very articulated. We have a huge list in the charter, the city charter, that includes things like childcare. And most people would not put that as a core function of city government. I think clearly public safety, maintaining infrastructure are the top two. Of course, education, which does not fall under the city council, but I would say those are the top three in all situations: public safety, infrastructure, and education.
Right.
What specific savings do you believe can be found in the upcoming budget? Please be specific regarding areas and programs such as Jacksonville Journey, JDC, Cultural Council, special events, and public safety.
Okay. Our budget is primarily salaries. A huge percentage of the budget is salaries. So I see our first and most obvious place to look for savings are in staffing of city government. I've yet to see a department, as I've worked with them, that I didn't think could not be right-sized by reducing some staff, combining some staff. I certainly don't want to go out and fire half our city workers because then we just increase our unemployment numbers. But I do think we need to do some restructuring of the departments in City Hall to combine some duties. One that I would put at the top of the list is the Human Rights Commission, which has, as far as I know, just one required duty, and that's certifying that we're meeting some of the housing requirements for fair housing. I believe that could be moved to another department, and some of the current things in that department could go away quite easily. That would be one example of a department. But I think many of them have savings that every city council person doesn't need their own secretary or a personal assistant. You know, one for several I think would do quite well. So again, an example of too many staff. The mayor's office, I think, has an inordinate number of folks that are on as advisors, mid-level management folks that aren't needed. You know, we've elected leaders and they need to lead without quite so many assistants telling them what to say and how to operate. So I would start with the staffing. Some of the other items you mentioned, I know are in or not in some of your suggested as a group proposed budgets. I believe Cultural Council gets a reduction in yours, and I can't remember if it's Journey or Children's Commission. I think there are some savings in Jacksonville Journey, but I also think that's been an incredible program to date in the reduction of crime. There are three parts to reducing it: prevention, intervention, and enforcement. And I think some of those programs are helping tremendously at prevention and intervention. So while the city's core function is public safety, I think it's not always at the enforcement end if you can do it more cheaply and more efficiently at the beginning by prevention and intervention. So I would look carefully at those dollars, but wouldn't zero it out. Likewise, the Children's Commission. Education is a part of what we do as a city. When we have children who aren't prepared to start school and limited ability on behalf of the school board to take care of that, I think when we can help, again, that's helping reduce crime in the long run by getting children into school successfully, at school, and successfully studying, working, mentored in the afternoon. So I would hesitate to cut all of that, but again, I think every department has savings. The pension issue is certainly out there and is huge for cuts. got ourselves in a tremendous hole by taking those pension holidays and not funding that along the way. But I do think we need to look there and keep working to find a better way to honor commitments made to our employees in the pension, but to do something that's within the means of the city.
Ask that question again,
What do you believe is the solution to the city employee pension problem, and what steps would you take as a council member to work toward that solution?
Okay. Well, we've got a couple of groups that have been looking at it. City Council's had a committee that's been looking at the pension plan, Sustainability Committee, the pension fund themselves have been looking at it and analyzing what's happened. I think first we need to listen and hear the reports as they come out. I've read John Keene's reports. He's much more optimistic than most other folks about the ability of the pension fund to basically, over a period of time, catch up with the unfunded liability. I haven't seen a response to his projections, but I do think some of the numbers that are in documents like the JCCI study, where they're taking a 5-year snapshot of the pension fund, are slightly unrealistic because they're starting just as it started its downfall in terms of the investment growth. So I would like to see a more equitable projection of how quickly it's recovered in the past, what we can do on that. But that's a tough one. We've got a 30-year agreement with those employees that we're going to continue that plan, and that's real tough. I've not seen, and I've done some research, I have not seen a good example of a city that has taken their public sector employees and transitioned them from a defined benefit plan to a defined comp plan, and really been very effective at quickly reducing and saving a lot of money. They're probably out there, but I'm not seeing a lot of good data on the success of that. But I think we do have to listen to the reports, hear the reports, and see what the experts are recommending, because you've got a 30-year agreement in place. I think at a minimum, whatever you come up with, new hires are under a different plan. And it's fairly outrageous when, I think it's typically the police, state that you can't have employees under 2 different systems. Well, there's not a business in the world that doesn't have that same sort of process. They change things and the new folks get the new deal. So.
All right, Victor?
Are there any fees that have been put in place by the current government that you would attempt to reduce or remove? And if so, how would you recover any revenue shortfall that results from such removal or reduction of fees?
Well, the typical, and the 2 that I believe you asked about in your questionnaire, are stormwater and the waste collection, waste management fees. I having owned a condominium for a number of years, having worked for businesses that paid the same percentage ad valorem tax as every homeowner, have always, in those entities, had to pay a waste fee. Waste fees aren't unusual. Only core Jacksonville homeowners have avoided, for all these years, paying a trash pickup fee. If you owned a condo, you paid your taxes and you paid for your trash. If you lived in the beaches in Baldwin, you paid your taxes and you paid for the trash. I don't have a huge problem with the trash fee, but I would suggest and look to see if it could not be more fairly and equitably implemented. There's a big difference between the trash that a family of 6 puts out and a widow who, has 1 trash can every 3 weeks. And there are communities around the country that have a pay-as-you trash fee that actually scans, something on your trash can, and that's how it's billed, so that it is a little more fair. Stormwater fee is also very common in cities like ours that haven't put the infrastructure in place and have water problems. I'm not seeing, and the thing that I object to with what we have now, I don't believe the money that's gone into that is being spent out to make the improvements that people think are happening. The drainage isn't being done, the drainage repairs aren't being done for the money that's being collected. I wish there were more credits on them for people that have already made improvements in their own, own yard, xeriscaping, doing other things that are helping with stormwater runoff. I think could certainly see some reductions in those fees. but that's a huge problem in our community, and if the money is truly being put aside and used for those projects, you know, I don't love it because it's another tax, but I think it's a valid purpose for the city.
What about franchise fee for the city-owned utility?
That's a very sneaky one. And, you know, again, it's helping to balance the budget right now. In order to get rid of it, we've got to cut an awful lot out of the budget. But yes, I think the franchise fee on utilities is a very sneaky way of saying you're paying an extra tax. And I would look hard to see if there's another way to structure, you know, and get rid of that tax.
Okay, Brian?